The Sig 226 or Mark 25 and the Beretta 92FS or the M9 have seen billions of rounds through them over the last 3 decades. And both of these pistols have larger than life reputations for their service in government agencies, police departments, and militaries all over the world. So what I would like to do is talk about some of the lessons we've learned from both of these platforms. First, I would like to start off with the magazine capacity, because that is one of the things that is still harped on today, and guns with heights like both of these being 5.5 inches tall, we're able to squeeze 17 rounds at least into pistols with this type of height. And that is mainly due to the design of magazines being upgraded. Now, recently you see the P226, you're actually able to fit 18 rounds in a magazine you can get from Metgar. The same from the Beretta. I believe it's 17 rounds they're putting out in their newer models, although they have extended base plates. But you can get a flush-fitting, mostly flush-fitting magazine that carries about 18 rounds, 17 or 18 rounds. But in general, we've learned that 15 rounds does not need to be the maximum for a pistol of this size. We can cut a 1/2 inch off of our height on our pistols and still get 15 rounds. Next thing I want to talk about is barrel length. Now, through technology in general, ammunition technology and firearms technology, we have been able to develop guns and ammunition that at the time were not able to, provide us with the amount of accuracy that we can obtain today just from a 4-inch flat barrel. Now, there's still a lot of debate on this, and I can understand that, and of course I don't know everything, but from what I've learned through the years, through my own testing, is that I'm getting about the same velocity out of the 226 as I would out of a 4-inch barrel, and this is about almost a 1/2 inch longer. The Beretta 92 is an interesting beast in the fact that it does actually provide a generous amount of velocity and up from what you can get from a 4-inch barrel. And mainly what you'll see is that you have great advantage in having this longer barrel if you intend to use 147 grain ammunition. Typically you can accelerate it a little bit more, and the heavier round can actually penetrate more, and it'll actually be a little bit more reliable in its expansion, whereas 10-20 years ago, 147 grain ammo was considered to be a little bit finicky. The next thing we have learned is that the durability of the frame of metal frame pistols is really dependent on the quality of manufacturing and the method of manufacturing of the frames themselves. And what I'm talking about is, consider the fact that the SIG's frames are made out of billet aluminum alloy, whereas the Beretta frames and the M9s are made out of forged aluminum alloy. They're pretty much the same metals across the board, but they are made a little bit differently. And that could be for different reasons: reinforcement points at certain areas, pressures that they may undergo just because of the inherent design. But in general, what you are finding is that the Beretta frames last way longer than the slides, and also the SIG frames last longer than their slides, and sometimes it's a little bit switched around depending on the type of firearm you're using, whether that's a smaller 229 or it's a different caliber like 357 SIG. And what you're seeing is that the life and longevity of both of these pistols is also dependent on maintenance, because we're finding that, granted the Beretta M9s are horrendously maintained, as in, they're not maintained much at all. Most of the failures are due to lack of maintenance, in that they're not replacing recoil springs, they're not replacing trigger spring like main springs, they're not replacing much of anything, or even trigger springs until they break. This is a bad policy to have in the military, because you need to keep these things around for a long time. They need to have a long service life. The standard service life for these pistols was supposed to be 30,000 rounds. These things are going to 200,000 rounds on the frames, and granted the slides are rated for maybe 30,000 rounds or whatever. They typically will last for about 50,000 rounds from what I'm seeing of the feedback from Beretta, and the frames are there's still frames around from the originals. Now granted, the original, if you will, they had problems with cracks and they had to sort of redesign the frames and get that right, but I think they found the perfect combination. But Beretta did not stop there. They took all the lessons that they've learned, and considering the fact that these pistols won't be maintained, with their new contract for the M9A1, well, newish, they reinforced certain parts of the frame to account for that and still deliver long service life despite the lack of maintenance. With Sig, they haven't really upgraded too much. They've done a little bit with the slide there. It's all, one piece now of stainless steel. It's not, carbon steel and, like 4140 or whatever it was, and, a stamped and welded on front piece. They have done some upgrades, but in general what they're finding is the billet frame, the way that it's made, needs to be maintained. That is why Sig Sauer, if you call them and ask them about when you need to change the recoil springs, they say every 2,000 to 3,000 rounds. The reason for that is it's not necessarily bad, but that's just an inherent flaw in the way that these things are designed. Billet frames, aluminum alloy frames, need that extra, spring tension to prevent the added pressure that you will give the frame when the slide is smashing against it from having a weak recoil spring. It'll still function with a cracked frame. That's what we've seen with almost every metal frame pistol. They're not just going to blow up, and they're not ticking time bombs as some people have, kind of knee-jerked, in implications. But it is very much more dependent on proper maintenance than the M9 is, or even the 92FS. The next thing I want to talk about is the size for your hands. Now, I will say that both of these companies actually have developed ways to be more appealing to shooters in general, but I think Sig Sauer did it a lot better with their E-squared grip. It is a lot thinner than this one, which is the standard, one of the more standard ones, not the original standard, like the German Sigs, but it is a lot slimmer and it is a lot more ergonomic, and very simply so. And also, one of the traits of the Sig Sauer updated grip is you just snap it on. And it's just held on by tension instead of screws, which can come loose. And I've had to take these things off and put Loctite on it 3 times since I've owned it and had 2,000 rounds through it. That's just something that you might have to deal with a pistol like this where it has screws. With the Beretta, the way that these things are designed, it doesn't seem to have that much of an issue. Now, they have been using polymer grips, as with the older Sigs and this one, but in general, this kind of fits the hand a little bit better for smaller people than the old school Sig frame grip. Now, that's for a variety of reasons, because most of it is being able to reach the trigger with your index finger, not so much just the feeling with these 3 fingers. Trigger reach is a very important thing, and if you don't want to change out this old style grip, you can get a slimmer trigger. But the Beretta 92 has actually been upgraded with a flatter backstrap, and that is an excellent upgrade. And the problem is that it's not actually of a dominant trait in their lineup of these pistols. They still produce these in mass, and it's very hard to find the ones that are upgraded. Now, the new M9A3 is upgraded, and it is flat on the backstrap, which makes it very appealing. In general, both of these pistols are extremely reliable, and if you are a civilian and you own the Beretta 92, you can probably tell that it's a very reliable platform. Same with the 226. It's not really problem prone if you take care of it, or you just don't shoot that much. The military and government agencies are known for abusing pistols and not really taking care of them as well as they should, and that's for obvious reasons. They don't really catalog the amount of rounds that are going through it at every range trip. They just try to do it whenever they can, and most of it has turned to just doing maintenance when it actually needs it or it breaks, and that's not really a good recipe for success. And that's where a lot of the problems come from both of these pistols, especially the M9. Thanks for watching. I would recommend both of these pistols if you like them, but just be aware of what I was telling you. You want to take care of them and treat them properly, and they'll serve you very well for a long time.